It's just the sound of violence. Here's your look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse, the Batman Futures End, Shriek. Walter Shriek was a skilled audio engineer living in Neo-Gotham, trying to fund his research in the field of sonics. Unable to do so, Shriek used his highly advanced sound technology to build an armored suit capable of demolishing buildings with sonic blasts. Going by the name Shriek, he was soon hired to destroy Batman and nearly succeeded, but lost his hearing in the ensuing battle. He was then sent to Blackgate Penitentiary, where he was able to continue his research behind bars. Since then, Shriek has managed to break out on occasion, each time seeking revenge against Batman and wreaking havoc on the citizens of Neo-Gotham. Before we get a closer look at Shriek, it's rather actually quiet in here right now. Silence is deafening. Before we get a closer look at the figure, let's bring in the ruler, take it right to the very top of Shriek's head, and the figure stands about 7.5 inches in height, or about 19 centimeters tall. This technically does mark the second time we've gotten the same Shriek figure from McFarlane Toys. The previous one to this was the unhelmeted version that we've already looked at here on this channel. This would be a prime time for me to slide over the Shriek that we're about to have a look at and bring in the previously looked at Shriek. Yeah, unfortunately I can't find where I've put it right now. Bummer. What I am going to do, though, is the next best thing. I'm going to slide over Shriek that we are about to have a look at and bring in the previously looked at Batman with the domed faceplate. You probably already know my feelings about this figure. Let's get his feet straightened up here. Good-looking figure, but again, I don't think was necessary in this set. Why is he having such a difficult time standing? Hold on one second. Let me grab myself a display stand. I'm not going to waste the time of having you guys just sitting here wondering what's going on. Let's get ourselves a display stand. There we go. Boy, problematic. Yeah, my feelings already, you know my feelings already when it comes to the faceplate Batman Beyond. Unnecessary. Technically, you could also say it was unnecessary that Shriek was part of this wave too, as we already kind of have followed now in the same footsteps. We already have this Shriek before, but this one is the helmeted version. I really think this was the figure that they should have released right from day one. I was really less interested in the unhelmeted Shriek. I was sort of just holding off for that free sub. We talked about that in the previous review. I did at the end, by the way, in the final looks, I mentioned sub of the card, the sub of the month. It was actually a pizza of the month. For anybody that was commenting down below. Dude, you were talking about subs a lot. I was talking about subs a lot. But yeah, it gives you at least an idea that Batman Beyond here from this same wave is a little bit taller than Shriek, it really only by factoring in the points in the tops of his ears. Beelining it then to the figure's accessories. Starting first, Shriek comes included with a trading card. And one thing that they've now added is another character. When we looked at Batman, they had Batman Beyond, and then they had the Futures End Batman, and now they've added Shriek to the mix. There's 3 characters occupying this space on this card. Really does take a lot away from Shriek. You would think he would be the focal point on this card, but we have so much stuff going on here. There's quite the party. Shriek down below, you can see, is listed with Batman Beyond and a smaller font listed below that. On the back of the card, the real name is Walter Shriek, with a quite considerably long read-up. You can either decide for yourself to pause video. That's the video, by the way. Pause and read it for yourself, or it happens to also be the same thing I read at the beginning of this review. I've just saved you the trouble. Put that to the side. The figure also comes included with a display stand, which happened to be the same display stand I just finished using for Batman. Why was I having, out of nowhere, some real difficulty getting that figure to stand? It's always Murphy's Law. The moment you start hitting record is when problems start happening. Same display stand, though, other than just the fact that you've got the DC logo down below. It does get changed up a bit when they release different lines in the McFarlane Toys banner, but I mean, in this case, we've got DC logo down below here. This would be nice if they actually done this in different color than just using black all the time. I mean, for Batman Beyond, Batman's colors, after all, are black and red. How cool would that have been if they actually had done the DC logo in a very nice bright red? But no, it's still dark black. Still, though, it's going to be good for the figure, allowing him to stand. The figure also comes included with a sonic wave. The original unmasked, bitter reminder that I didn't have the figure ready and prepped for this review. But the original figure, I think, had actually 2 sonic waves, and they actually fit in both of his hands. This one gets a larger version, which is different from the one that we got before. sort of irrelevant for me to mention that if I don't have the chance to bring it in and show you guys the difference. But take my word for it. This one's a little bit bigger. It's made of translucent plastic, so you can see my hand waving behind it. Hi. And there's also these little slots in the top there. No, a beaver hasn't taken a few bites out of it. This actually fits into his hands, which is really one of my biggest issues with this figure, and really my only issue with this figure, because I really like the figure otherwise, just other than the thing I'm about to mention. The other Shriek had the exact same problem. In order to get the sonic waves into his hand, you have to bring his hands up here. You see these little points, the ends of his fingers? What we're going to do is just sort of line things up. You don't necessarily have to fully commit to having all the holes filled in there, but you can certainly just take a couple of fingers, slot them in place. And that seems to be enough. Normally that would seem to be enough to just, there we go, to fit this into his hand. You may already see one thing that's a big problem when it comes to this figure is the way that he holds the sonic wave. I personally would like to have him something similar to like Iron Man shooting a repulsor blast, where like instead of the hand like this, the hand was angled back. The hand was angled back, so it would actually look like he's projecting the waves forward. You can't quite pull that off. You can either have it this way, where it's looking like it's going sideways, or you sort of have to bring the hand around and then just bring the arm high enough, but it also looks like he's asking the teacher a question. If they had given us a second set of hands, which was basically this hand right here, because right now you can't bend the hand up any higher than this. I mean, that's it. That's as much as you can actually do. But if they gave you a second set of hands which were deliberately sculpted up, then at least you could actually make it look like he's holding and projecting the sonic waves like he normally would have done in the cartoon or comics. Again, it's my only real issue when it comes to it is, yeah, sure, it attaches to the hand, but it doesn't attach what I feel to be in a realistic way. One thing we have overlooked in all this time of talking about sonic waves and free subs and Batman not standing properly, speaking of which, getting him to stand properly, the figure also comes included beelining it back to the Build-A-Figure accessory parts for the Batman Future's End. He comes included with the arms. Now, one arm is a big blaster, pew, 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 sculpted well, I think, here in like a gray plastic, with equally sculpting, nice equally sculpted forearm, which is done in different color plastic, a nice dark black. It doesn't have much in the way of a wash. I mean, just adding a darker paint finish over top of it would have been helped to bring in all those details that they've sculpted in there. But still, it's a nice looking cannon arm. And he also has just a regular arm here as well. We're going to take what we started off with, and this is basically all we have to work with right now, is the torso piece for Batman. You see that I'm already holding the sides for fear that these are going to be falling off because they just fall off way too frequently. So quickly commit to taking those arms, taking first of all the one that plugs onto this side, and just plugging into place. That's a nice satisfying snap. And then do the exact same thing on this side. And we already know this is the right side because thumbsies go in and that's the right side of the arm there. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on this side. Just plug that into place. Let's hope I don't have any issues with this one. I'm going to bring the joint up just a little bit and plug that right into the socket. That one wasn't as satisfying as a snap, but at least now I know that these little sockets on either side aren't going to be falling out anywhere. And it gives us also one step closer to getting us a fully finished, very cool looking Batman / Joker Batman Future's End. I think it's going to be a really nice looking figure. Still missing, though, the lower legs and the things that stick out the back of its torso. That will then be completed, promsies, with two figures that we're about to have a look at in upcoming videos. So we're going to put what we've completed so far to the side. And seeing as we have already talked about his accessory, we can also put that to the side. We can spend now some dedicated time talking about Shriek, which I really like the look of this character. The thing about it, though, is that I was already kind of committed to buying Shriek the first time around, but unfortunately sort of had to settle with less. I had to settle with the idea that I really got myself an unmatched Shriek, which really wasn't the way I wanted to get Shriek in the first place. But I stayed to the call. I did everything that a dedicated collector would do. I contributed towards the line so that we know that future lines would be able to exist. And I knew at some point by buying the unhelmeted Shriek, which was still a fine figure, but this is really the Shriek that I wanted right from day one. With his singular cyclop optical eye, you can see sticking out right there. In the cartoon, you would have had a much larger dome, but I kind of like the more streamlined dome on this one. It has basically all the same building blocks when it comes to his body. Like the lower legs haven't changed at all from the original release. Great to actually be able to bring in that other figure so you can see the difference between the two. But please, I encourage you, if you get the chance, go back and check my other review so you'll see what I'm talking about. The head sculpt underneath was fine. In fact, I even credited at it being a decent looking head sculpt. But really, anyone I would think would be wanting to invest, I think, in a Shriek that actually does have the helmet. Still begging really the question, why wouldn't they have just included the alternate head sculpt with the figure in the first place? Then you could have easily just taken off this head sculpt, which I really think is the better of the two, and you could have replaced it with the alternate one instead. Instead, now I have two Shrieks, this one that we're looking at, and the other one that's whereabouts are certainly unknown for the time being. The neat thing about this one is that it does have the optical eye that they've done in actually a different color of plastic instead of actually painting it. So it sort of has more of a translucent look to it. They have copied the same look down below in sort of an arc reactor area of his torso, and also replicated that down below, these giant orbs that are stuck inside and actually more sandwiched on the palms on either side. And I don't know if you can actually see it or not. It's like a little peekaboo. See, right, my hand is actually waving right behind it. So it actually goes all the way through. It's not just attached from the one side, attached from the other side, and plastic in the middle. You could technically really take a light source and illuminate straight through if you want to get that effect. Not much really in the way of paint. A lot of it really is just the plastic. Plastic more for the head, and of course all the parts that go over top of his body. All the things that really go over top of his body are just pieces that are not sandwiched, but adhered over top of his existing body underneath. This part would have been molded just in the white plastic. It almost kind of looks like it was painted. Maybe it was painted by the fact that I can see there's a little bit of black right here. They probably have, what they've done is molded this in white plastic, this part in white plastic, and then painted probably the joint inside in the black. You can see the interior palm is nicely done as well in the black, matching the same colors as we get for the rest of the legs. And while there isn't really much in the way of paint happening for the lower legs, at least we got some decent sculpting happening here, both on the front and also on the back. For the figure's articulation, Shriek's head actually has a nice way to rotate all the way around. He's got a lot of mileage actually for his ball joint. You can look down quite a lot if he's moping for the fact that I can't find the other Shriek. We share similar feelings right now, helmeted Shriek. Head looks up, and of course you can also rock it back and forth as well. This torso, by the way, is a slightly more softer plastic. You kind of feel it here when you're squeezing like his mid-torso area. But this whole section is on a ball joint. The lower half also, hidden behind all this, is also a secondary ball joint. The arms do come out. They're a little more restricted by the fact he does have the shoulders here, but you can get just about a 45-degree angle bend out of it. You can also take then the arms and rotate those all the way around. Single hinge on the elbow, rotation here in the bicep, and when you do rotate the bicep, you'll see where they've attached the shoulder plate. Why am I having such a tough time saying that? The shoulder plate is actually attached here, so when it rotates, you're rotating it here rather than having this be stuck along the top instead. Yeah, the hands do rotate back and forth. Still disappointed the fact that they didn't have angled hands included with this figure. Legs split out. Nice ratchet joint going on there. You can take the legs, bring them forward. Equally so, you can also take the legs and bring them back. The figure has a double hinge on the knee. And also the figure has not only foot articulation this way, but he also has, again, the ankle pivot. It's a toe articulated point as well. Sort of still following the same footsteps as the other Batman Beyond. I mean, now really two figures, if you think about it. Two of the four figures, that's halvesies, right down the middle. Two figures were re-released figures from before. To be fair, at least, let's hope we don't have any issues getting this guy to stand. To be fair, at least, you know what? I'm going to grab myself a display stand. I'm not going to waste the time trying to get this guy to stand. Just get the display stands. I keep promoting these display stands anyways. I might as well just bring them in anyways so the figure doesn't fall over. Whoosh. It's been a long day at the office. Yeah, even though Shriek is still double dipping, so halvesies into this wave. Two brand new figures, two reused figures to some extent. At least this one does bring something different. The other Batman Beyond, literally other than just a change of accessories. Same figures before. This Shriek, while mostly being the same figures before, get, I think, the much crucial helmeted head sculpt. The way that I wish the figure could have been released the first time, the only time I think really the figure could have been released, was just release him with the helmet. I like the head sculpt from before, but for displaying purposes, putting Shriek on display with the rest of my Batman Beyond figures and the rest of the DC Multiverse figures, this is the way that Shriek should have been right from day one. And still, unfortunately, because he's part of this particular wave, I think most people are probably going to be seeking this guy out, struggling. It's been a tough day at the office. While most people, I'm sure, are going to be seeking this guy out as being the more superior-looking Shriek, still the idea that he's actually packed as part of a wave where you have to be buying all the figures in order to build Futures and Batman, still kind of cheap. It really is. I mean, this figure could have been released on his own, didn't necessarily need any to build the figure pieces, but at least, unlike the Batman Beyond, we're not getting an exact carbon copy of the one that we got before. That would really stink. Yeah, tough day at the office. Still, though, I don't feel as much of this sting picking up here Shriek, even though this really is now the second time I had to get the Shriek I really wanted the first time. Didn't get that. We got the unhelmeted version, and to be all fair, that was a good unhelmeted head sculpt that they included with the Shriek. But really, for me, this is the way I would want to display the figure right from day one. And I had to wait a while for this guy to actually get that second re-release, the much crucial re-release, to give me the look that I actually wanted for this figure. Still, though, he has difficult time when it comes to holding that sonic blast. It kind of actually looks like he just caught himself a really warped-looking frisbee. There's no way that frisbee would be able to throw proper. I wish that the hands could have been molded differently, or at the very least, they could have included a second pair of hands that were angled up. Follow the same pages as what Iron Man does. Just have an angled hand. Just take the hands out. I know it's more cost to producing the figure. But if they just included extra hands that were already angled, at least it could have looked like Shriek was firing his sonic blast forward instead of actually putting his hand up and hoping the teacher would pick him for the next answer. Nice looking figure. Did it really necessarily need to be included into this wave? Which, again, just a reminder, 4 figures to build Futures and Batman. Half of this wave, half of this wave is of figures we already got before. Changed, yes, not completely with Batman Beyond, but at least Shriek was changed. But half the wave is figures that we already got before. I really feel, if anything, if you're going to be releasing a build-a-figure, a bath wave, as some of the collectors in the circle all like to refer to it as, if you're going to release a bath wave, release it with figures that are exclusive to this wave. I don't feel like double-dipping a figure. I mean, already the fact that McFarlane is releasing figures that have, quote, alternate head sculpt, like the gold label releases. That's fine, because you can either decide for yourself, I'm going to either, you know what, I don't necessarily need an unhelmeted Red Hood. I picked it up, but if you don't want it, you don't have to get it. You're not married to it. More married to this one, because if you did want to get yourself the Futures and Batman, you ultimately may be buying a figure that you already have in your collection. And now, as a resulting of this, this is the figure if I'm going to be putting out, and if I eventually find, I don't even know where the other Shriek went to. It disappeared. Whereabouts unknown. When I do eventually find that other Shriek, it's probably just going to go back to where I was probably keeping it all this time, in favor of what I think is the better looking Shriek. Didn't really still need, as my closing thoughts, I know we've made this long-winded here, closing thoughts, this Shriek really didn't need to get released in this wave. Should have just released this figure in the first place. What do you guys think? Yes, no, maybe so. Let me know down below in the comments section. Long-winded, long day at the office. If you guys are new to this channel, you're enjoying the content that you're seeing, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell notification. So yeah, you're getting those friendly reminders whenever new videos are going to be popping up. And also just a reminder, while we have gone halvesies through, well, we're kind of splitting the restaurant bill. We've gone about 2 of the figures in of the 4-figure wave. So still have to look at Batwoman. And we still also have to look at Blight. So Blight. He is also going to be coming up in the upcoming videos. So make sure, yes, you're keeping your peepers peeled to this channel. And make sure, yes, you're coming back on a regular basis. Always got some hot hors d'oeuvres and some cold brisk iced tea waiting for you at the concession table. It's all money, money, money. Lots of stuff coming right away, guys. As always, tough day at the office. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.